This is the Star Wars podcast on TV Podcast Industries, and we're talking about Star Wars Ahsoka, Episode 7, Dreams and Madness.
Withdraw the fighters and have them stand by.
Why not allow them to follow?
There's no need to waste our resources.
With due respect, Grand Admiral, without pursuit, we shall lose them in the debris field.
You're quite right, of course. Jedi are very good at hiding. They've been practicing that for years. However, we are getting to know our adversary. And if she's anything like her master, she'll be unpredictable and quite dangerous. Which is why we must control all variables. Put her on a path of her own choosing, so that no matter which direction she takes, we'll always be one step ahead of her.
Welcome back to TV Podcast Industries, and we're talking about Star Wars Ahsoka, Episode 7, Dreams and Madness. I am one of your mad hosts, Chris.
Hello there, fellow rebels. I'm one of your dreamy hosts, John.
I guess I encapsulate both dreams and madness. I am your host and editor, Derek. So a mix of both is required to finish this podcast out.
Yes, you're exactly. You are the "and" in Dreams and Madness.
Okay.
There you go. You're the conjoining tissue between John and I.
Wow.
You are the meat of our sandwich,
right,
if that makes
sense.
sense. There
Jesus,
you go.
This is getting off track very quickly.
I think we're almost at our Gen V podcast, John.
Exactly. Welcome back, fellow rebels. Yes, we are talking about Episode 7, the penultimate episode of Ahsoka, Season 1. Or the only season, we don't know, but definitely not the last we will see of Ahsoka and Ezra and everyone in between. But we have a lot to discuss. So if you like what you hear, don't forget to head on over to tvpodcastindustries.com to subscribe to each and every podcast catcher where this podcast is, including Spotify and all the other big usual podcast locations. And if you want to be in with a chance to win some beautiful Star Wars goodies, you can join us for our Cantina quiz at the end of the episode, where every episode this season we are asking you a question. You pull them all together. If you get them right, you can be in with a chance to win some goodies. You just need to send those answers at the end of the season to feedback at tvpodcastindustries.com with the correct answers, and you're in with a chance.
Great stuff. And if you want to send any feedback to us about Star Wars Ahsoka, you can always email us to feedback at tvpodcastindustries.com or pop on over to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries.
With all that being said and done, we can jump into our spoiler-filled discussion of this episode of Dreams and Madness. I am the madness, he is the dreams, and he is the and. So, gentlemen, Derek, do you want to tell us who gave us what, where, when, and how with this episode?
Absolutely, yes, of course. Executive producer for the show and showrunner is Dave Filoni. This episode was written once again by Dave Filoni, and this episode was directed by Geeta Vasant Patel. Geeta has worked on wonderful shows on TV like House of the Dragon, Marvel's Runaways, and Superstore.
Wow. That's a
our
nice
classics.
diverse mix.
It's a weird
Isn't
one.
Isn't it? I did choose quite a diverse mix of shows that she's worked on. She's worked on lots and lots of stuff. But Superstore was our COVID binge. We watched 6 seasons and watched the last season after COVID. So, yeah, that's a special place.
Yeah.
Always.
Great stuff and a great show. Johners, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for this episode?
Sure. On Coruscant, Hera Syndulla faces a disciplinary hearing with tribunal member Senator Xiono, objecting to her reports of a secret Imperial Remnant conspiracy. As she defends herself, C-3PO arrives and provides the tribunal with an authorization by Leia Organa, forcing the court to absolve Hera and convince Mon Mothma that the threat is real. Meanwhile, Ahsoka and Huyang arrive at Peridea, where the Purrgil run into a minefield left by Thrawn's forces and begin jumping to hyperspace to escape the detonations. Continuing alone, Ahsoka and Huyang are attacked by enemy fighters and hide in a debris field, compelling the Grand Admiral to adopt a more calculated approach. Ahsoka locates Sabine Wren through the Force and heads to the planet's surface, avoiding a further attack from Thrawn's troops. On the planet, Ezra Bridger, Sabine, and the Noti are attacked by Shin Hatai, the bandits Wren had previously encountered, and Thrawn's night troopers, while Baylan Skoll bids farewell to his apprentice and leaves to pursue his own agenda. Ahsoka's intervention leads to Thrawn withdrawing his remaining night troopers and preparing his imminent departure. Shin Hatai is forced to retreat with the night troopers or be left behind in this galaxy. Ahsoka, Ezra, and Sabine are joyously reunited as Ezra hopes he might actually be able to go home. Yes, it's like Ezra has been on a night out and can't find a taxi. Just wants to get home at this stage.
You know, Star Wars is based on hope.
Yes.
And if it was any other show, I'd be going, shut up, Ezra. Don't say the words, maybe I'll be going home. Because that means you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm really hoping that this means that Ezra is actually going to be going home to his galaxy.
Me too, because I really liked Ezra in this episode. Just because we only caught a glimpse of him in the last one. And in particular, I think Eamon Asfandi as Ezra Bridger, he got some really good moments just to give that kind of more youthful feel to this character, you know. So I really liked his portrayal even more in this episode.
Absolutely.
So I hope he isn't going to die.
Yeah, that would suck.
Don't do it, Filoni. Don't do it.
Don't do it. Can I ask one question? And again, before we get into our very spoiler-filled discussion, I have a Star Wars lore question.
Okay.
Because someone posited a question to me, and I'm like, I don't know. I actually don't know this one.
Okay. Do you think we're going to know?
If a Jedi...
Yeah.
Who is good, a good Jedi, he has a blue lightsaber, green lightsaber,
okay,
and turns to the dark side.
Yeah.
Yes.
Does the Kyber crystal turn red and dark?
No.
No. So the Kyber crystal is a separate Kyber crystal. It's a red Kyber crystal or an orange Kyber crystal, and it's blue or green or yellow or whatever.
I believe so.
If you turn to Sith, you turn to the dark side. Any blade that you touch does not turn red, correct?
Correct, because the lightsaber that Ben Kenobi gave to Luke was his father's. It was Anakin's blue lightsaber.
That's right.
Yes. But if Darth Vader picked up Luke's recreated lightsaber, his own one, that wouldn't automatically turn red when he turned it on.
It's just the green lightsaber that Luke built himself. Yeah,
good. Because the very fun one, I've heard everyone going is, the reason Ezra's not touching a lightsaber is because it will go red the second he turns it. And I'm like, I don't think that's right. I don't think he's super dark and evil, and if he touches the lightsaber, it will go red, and that's how they're going to give it away.
No, I don't think they do it that way. Actually, this is kind of a reference to the training of Kanan Jarrus and Ezra Bridger, because one of the quotes during that training, when Ezra's trying to learn how to use a lightsaber, is that Kanan Jarrus says to him, a laser sword doesn't make you a Jedi. So that's a little reference to him not taking the lightsaber that he's handed over to Sabine and is calling her lightsaber now, which you asked about actually earlier on in the series. He's now saying, that's your lightsaber, I gave it to you. So he's not taking it from her. And he was told by his master in his original training that a lightsaber doesn't make you a Jedi. So.
Absolutely. We've seen General Grievous with a ton of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent stuff.
There you go.
Well, with that initial bit of lore discussion, let's get into our spoiler-filled discussion of this episode of Dreams and Madness. We kick off with lightsaber point number 1.
We actually return to the other galaxy in our first saber point. So let's talk about Hera meeting with the Senate Oversight Committee. Because we kind of knew it was coming. That's what we'd heard earlier on in the season, but I had wondered whether we'd actually see it in the show. We got a couple of episodes without Hera, and this is the episode where she returns. So we get the kind of resolution to that storyline, with some very cool moments. And I must admit, when I was watching it the first time, I really wanted that Senator Xiono just to shut the hell up.
Yeah.
I was so sick of hearing his voice and his I object, not letting her speak. This is total crap. Probably because I was thinking they are actually going to court-martial Hera here, and she's going to have to run away from the rebellion, and they're making terrible decisions. So I was so glad with how it worked out, and then watching it the second time, I could just have the pleasure of how the whole scene played out.
Yeah. They are really setting that senator up to be a bad guy, right?
Yeah.
They're trying their best, or at least they're going to do a punt fake where it's like, oh, you think he's a bad? Surprise, it's not. It was that other alien that never talked throughout this whole episode. It's the other senator that's on there who's actually the bad guy. Or it's the other female, not Mon Mothma, who's the bad guy. That's
true, because I must say, even though he was at Syndulla all the time in this, for some reason I felt he felt less like the bad guy. He just seemed to be
a terrible politician.
Well,
a jerk.
No.
A jerk,
he was just being objectionable. He was just the one dominating the oversight committee.
Yeah, quite literally, I object. Yeah. I strongly object.
Yeah, but that's...
I am objectionable.
That's definitely how those things go, for sure.
Yeah,
so
I think they're going to try and basically show that, like, this is... Within the New Republic, yeah, there are the bad guys. So the original Galactic Empire guys, the old Empire, the Empire. But these are probably just new rebellion, New Republic people. But like they're just bad guys. Like they're not bad. They're bad politicians. They're very much. If it was real world politics, they would be opposition parties.
Yeah,
like still within the Republic, but like. They are just not, they're going to try and make each other's political aspirations difficult.
And we did see that in Andor. We saw the class of people who were in kind of senator mode, who were kind of going, we don't really care who's in power as long as we're also in power. Exactly. And we keep our power, and we will agree with the things that even objectionable people want, as long as we keep our power. So there are still some of those people around. We've seen that with the Imperial Remnant that's called out here by Hera. These people still exist in the galaxy, not being managed very well. Also, did anybody else notice another little character that could be from Return of the Jedi on the Senate here? I think I recognize Nien Nunb, the pilot of the Millennium Falcon from the final attack on the Death Star, on the Battle of Endor. I think that was Nien Nunb there.
Certainly his species.
It was certainly his species.
Yes.
Just seemed to have a mustache, but it's been a couple of years, so,
Yeah.
He can grow some facial hair.
Potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, as well, coming back to Senator Xiono, maybe we've just got him all wrong. We have no backstory other than, Hera has said, did you just stay back whilst others made the difficult choices or, fought in the rebellion until the fighting was over? But you just never know, what the background is. So maybe that's kind of the nice red herring about this.
Yeah.
And ultimately he becomes allied with Hera at some point. But I like that she stood her ground to him. He was kind of unwilling to see or to take on board what she was saying. He thinks she is taking personal advantage of a situation for her own gain. And this guy is a politician, so it is all about power. So that might be a threat to him rather than him being sort of one of the Imperial remnants that he objected to as well.
I do love her line to him though, where she says, my job here is to protect the people of the Republic. And he says, did you do that in this case? And he said, yes, I protected them by not listening to you.
That's
which
true.
Was really
that was a
by
good
not following
line.
your orders. Yeah.
She goes, no, I didn't disobey orders. I ignored yours.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was a good line.
Should we talk about the big golden elephant that walks into the room?
I was just leaving it for you to talk about, Chris.
Thank you. C-3PO, baby.
Yeah.
Come on. I know, like, there's going to be some haters that roll their go, oh, you can never do, like, the pass. You can never leave the pass. I don't care. C-3PO, as soon as he comes in, I love this character. Same as R2-D2 or any of the OG. Anytime you put a Luke in there, I'm happy. You put a Leia in there, I'm happy. We got Leia name dropped, which is definitely what she would do. And you got a full-on C-3PO coming in, doing his thing.
Looking nice and shiny. This was good. It also meant that we got a little Chopper cameo as well, with him giving out and getting angry because, again, the senator that shall not be named takes exception to a droid giving evidence rather than than Leia. But it was
there was
really...
definitely a moment of Chopper going, "Hey, F you."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, exactly. That was pure. No, he said some rude shit, and they just kept it beeped.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I really liked seeing C-3PO, and why not? He's a droid. As long as he's got his oil bath, he's going to be around for a long time.
Well, we know he's there in the sequel trilogy. He's in every one of those as well. So nice to have the appearance of him here, and again played by Anthony Daniels in the role again. So that's always good as well to have that connection all the way back to the first movies. So really good. I will say though, and I'm sorry to nitpick again because I nitpicked last week, and I'm still getting a little bit of flack for my nitpick last week. His head didn't seem to be on right.
No, Grand. I thought the exact same thing. And it looked like he just had a weird, usually they paint his neck with a bit of gold and they also put a bit of plastic underneath it.
Yeah.
But the actual join as well looked like spandex versus the rubber they usually put on or something.
I wasn't even going that deep. It just looked like he was looking
at the
way
ceiling.
far upwards to where his eye line should be. It looked like you could see more of the neck. Yeah,
it looked like he'd been to a dodgy chiropractor or something and had been kind of left at sort of a weird angle or something.
Yeah. I was just more going if it actually wasn't Anthony Daniels in it and he just voiced it and they just had someone else who kind of was the right height and body type and it's not really, so it just didn't fit perfect.
That's entirely possible. It just looked like he was looking upwards the whole time. And I was kind of going, maybe he's looking up at the bench. That makes sense. And then he turned around to look at Hera and he was still looking above her head. It's like, oh no. But still, absolutely wonderful to have C-3PO back here. Really cool. And as well, because they've been dropping this kind of backstory of Leia Organa being involved and her supporting Hera in this attack, it's nice to kind of tie that up without having to resort to doing something unusual like de-aging Carrie Fisher or using old footage or something like that. It's kind of good to bring in such a great character from the original trilogy to kind of tie it up without having to do something that may not have played very well.
Yeah, and we talked about this literally, 4 episodes ago, where I said I would love to have Leia back. And this is another way to get Leia back. You bring her voice in that of Anthony Daniels.
Yeah, and it's also where this leads to, because, although there was this cover-up with the, belated authorization from Leia, Mon Mothma, sees right through it. I love Genevieve O'Reilly is really good here, even in the small scenes that she has, sees right through it, but then, questions Hera, don't deny that you've got personal attachments here, in effect supporting Xiono, but what is the reality that this, could happen, that Thrawn is this danger to the New Republic. So it would be interesting to see what comes from that, because with Hera's line, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. Does that mean we're going to get the New Republic fleet? In my mind, I suddenly go, does that mean they're going to at least station some of the New Republic fleet around Cetos, so that when they jump back, there's suddenly a pitched battle, or it doesn't quite go to Grand Admiral Thrawn's plan? Yeah. What is going to happen here? Because if you do think there's a risk, well then at least station a couple of New Republic ships there. I
think that's exactly what's going to happen. We saw Thrawn on the other side, leaving a minefield for the Purrgil to arrive. I think what's going to happen is it's the same corridor, effectively, this hyperspace corridor between the two galaxies. So I'd say that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to leave some troops there, or some of the fleet there, as a warning, waiting for him to come back so they can warn the rest of the fleet. One other thing just in the scene that was called out, which we really liked, a little tie into Mandalorian season 3. They mentioned the battle of that Gideon had on Mandalore to Xiono, and he's calling it out, kind of going, well, that doesn't mean there's this Imperial Remnant, but they are referencing that just to put it in the timeline of Mandalorian. Yeah, cool.
That is cool.
And I think that's exactly what it was there for that line drop, is to, again, we know now, post Star Wars Celebrations, that this is leading to a film. So this is now starting to become chronological, in that we know where this is taking place in the big lead up to the heir to the Empire. kind of film.
The Mandalorian movie, I'm sure it's going to be called, so that it sells tickets.
Yes, that too. Grogu, the movie.
Grogu, the movie, exactly.
Din Grogu.
Oh, it'd be so good if Grand Admiral Thrawn gets hold of Grogu. Just puts him in a fishbowl or something.
And then he just explodes it.
Yeah, just studies Grogu. Sort of with a glass cloche over him.
But, gentlemen, we move on to Saber Point number 2, because I do want to apologise and say I start to see it now with Saber Point number 2.
I promise the writing of this, of the title for this, was not a dig at your comment last week that Grand Admiral Thrawn just has to show off what his bad power is, because he definitely shows it off in this episode, Chris.
Yep. No, it was.
This is all
Grand Admiral
about...
Thrawn shows off his military prowess.
Yeah, this is
100%.
all about his tactics, all about his abilities and what way he uses his abilities versus his opponents. And I loved how they did, the shorthand version of it. I think he even actually says it in the way that a fan would say about Grand Admiral Thrawn. He goes, no, we're getting to know our opponent now. We are making plans to be one step ahead of them. So it's a little bit more heavy on the dialogue rather than the exposition, but you get both of them. You get the visuals of what he's doing, and you get his planning against Ahsoka and the rest of the group on the planet.
100%. And look, now they did it. Look, I was the one asking for, give me the shorthand, show me why this guy is so impressive and why they need to fear. And you see throughout this episode, including the very end, he's like, but you've lost. No. No. I won. They won the battle. I've won the war because I got what I wanted out of this, because we are now 97% complete.
Exactly.
Loading. And it's just like, oh, no. So he is a general. He's not thinking about the pawns. He's not thinking about the rank and file. He is here to win the war. And that's how this is going to go.
He is long game Thrawn, basically. And I mean, it was just really well done here because, again, you just have that little bit of, conflict between him and Elspeth where, she's saying, you need to go after them. We can take them out here. Because with Elspeth, she just sees that she goes, I see our enemies reunited after he's recalled the gunship, recalled the fighters and so on. But he just counters that immediately. But the enemy have been distracted, and we're almost have completed loading from the catacombs in order to leave. And he's just like, Ahsoka has lost time that she can't reclaim, and I intend to keep it that way. So it's just like, it's even just the intention. It's like, what are we doing here? It's not about, he's always keeps pressing that at this moment in time, it's to get back.
Yes.
Everything else ultimately is a distraction. And because for him, he needs to get back to the galaxy, in order to regroup the Empire.
Exactly.
With him at the top of it. So, it's just that tactical long game. And again, like you say, getting the information on Ahsoka and just having the line in there, it's great to have that. That, when he discovers that Anakin was her master, which means, that means she has the potential to be hugely unpredictable and dangerous. And so we need to let her do that stuff so that she feels as though she's making her own choices. So, I mean, it's hugely manipulative. It is about almost, the psychology of getting into your enemy. And that's what makes him so dangerous. He's not a Night Sister. He's not a Jedi. He's not any kind of special power wielder in this universe. He's just simply a master tactician.
Absolutely.
Can I ask a quick question about his usage of the Night Sisters? Or in particular, the three mothers. They are an analogy or an analog for the three witches, the weird sisters, the weird witches.
Yeah, it's
kind of the three sages from classical, right? Because the fun part about that, if that is the way Filoni is making them, right? The three mothers are analogy for the three witches, the weird sisters. They lead to the demise of Macbeth.
Right.
They are the actual kind of cause of and potential lead him on that path to his demise.
Okay.
And that's the kind of the way it's called out.
Yeah.
So him leaning into this power one more time, using the mothers to pinpoint Ahsoka in this, is that kind of, and potentially whatever he's loading from this planet, potentially being connected to these people, the power, things like that. Do you think that's a bit of he's trying to pull some classical mythology story bits, or am I reading way too much into it?
No, I think that's an absolute possibility of it. I mean, I guess it's just too early to tell. Is it his over-reliance on them? Is it, I mean, again, we don't really know what this cargo is. Actually, there's still an awful lot, despite now episode 7, that really is just unclear as well. And we don't know what's in those capsules I mean, yes, we've postulated they could be humans or bones or something like that, whatever it might be. But it could literally be to try and bring the Night Sisters back as a force in his galaxy. He might be using them in the same way. And it could be that leads to his demise. I mean, if you wanted to give at least the remnants of the Jedi something to think about, or bring another powerful, force-sensitive user at least, in order to distract them, and he's able to sort of use that almost as a distraction, or by establishing them, more firmly or more powerfully back in the other galaxy. Something like that. I mean, we just have no idea what he's loading. It's from their catacombs, so is it their record? Who knows? If
power, like literally, like I was about to say energon crystals, but that's Transformers.
I mean,
but
in a sense,
dilithium crystals almost.
Yeah, but I mean, in a sense,
that's Star Trek.
I know.
But in a sense, the Great Mothers are moving house. They're up in sticks and moving to a new pad. Yeah. And maybe he's just bringing all this stuff in order to keep them allied with him, because he can then use their power. And it's whether that comes back to bite him, because he just becomes arrogant in terms of, what's been achieved, and he, doesn't give them the attention, or even, like I say, with these little discussions with Elspeth. I mean, it's too early to say, but are they the genesis of something where she's like, well, he's just not listening to me anymore, because this is twice now in 2 episodes where her views are quite radically, at least from a tactical point of view, are very different.
Yeah, but I do think she's there as the example of your standard bad guy. Throw more men at it. Throw more of the army at it, and they just all get killed, and then the heroes win anyway. Whereas he is just really measured, and he's trying to teach her a better way, or is trying to show her the way that he does things is much better. This idea of don't waste resources, hold back until you have a firm plan, then you've got the upper hand. It's no coincidence that his planning board looks like a chessboard, the one that he's watching all the battles play out on. Like he's seeing every single piece and notices. For example, when Balin isn't there on the chessboard.
Just about to say,
he notices that instantly. He's like, oh, there's a missing piece to the plan.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's all the way through this episode. He's actually very fluid as well. So it's not just that he plans, but he is being fluid with the tactics that he's using. Exactly. In that, call them off, re-attack. It's kind of like pulse attacks on them as and when he's gotten more information, like, well, the Night Sisters have just provided the location, so turbo lasers, and then pursue Ahsoka again after withdrawing them. And equally, like you say, with Balin Skull, because he does say that's as good as we're going to get, given that General Skull wasn't there with them. Exactly. So actually, in his mind, because Balin was a former Jedi general, he would have expected it to have gone much better with him not being there, with it being left to his apprentice Hattai. Then he's like, no, we'll withdraw them. That's enough. Exactly. Whilst we're withdrawing and there's been losses, they're acceptable, and we've delayed them for long enough. So in a sense, he's actually mirroring Hera there. It's like, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. So he hoped they could destroy them, but that's not ultimately, that's a size win for him, because at the moment it's delay them so that they can leave. And then effectively they're, at least in his mind, they're stranded there, although they could always, hitch a ride in the mouth of a Purrgil.
Or somehow hitch a ride on his starship, which is possibly what's going to happen. Yeah. But it also, a nice callback in a way to the different strategy from Grand Moff Tarkin, right? Give up in my moment of triumph is what got him killed back in A New Hope. Here with Grand Admiral Thrawn, he would have an option to throw out more troops, fight against these 3 people, kill them, and then move on. But he's going, you know what? That's enough. We tried it. Didn't work. Let's get out of here. Yeah. That's the bigger plan. So, love it. Yeah, I'm completely across this now. So, I'm happy that they are showing why, based on my ask last week, which was, show me why Thrawn's a threat. Mm-hmm. Here they did. They literally put it on paper and put it on screen. He is a military tactical genius, and God help the New Republic when he gets there, because if he pulls together enough of an army, he's going to outthink most of them. And again, we're seeing over there in our saber point number 1, the government, or the actual New Republic government, is already at odds. Mm-hmm. They don't agree. They're not a singular force that is being controlled. They are democracy, and democracies bicker and argue, and that's going to kind of cause, whereas he is single-minded and very, very quick at doing this. Yeah. They really kind of put it on screen here why he is such a threat, potentially. Absolutely. And the Senate are not ready for any kind of big resurgence to fight off, basically. Yeah, exactly.
As I say, Grand Admiral Thrawn, he's basically a big nerd, so I really like him. As soon as he said, must control the variables, all the variables, I was like, oh, he's speaking my language.
I love it.
He's a modeler. He's a scientific modeler.
That's it, exactly. Did you notice that little touch there that he does know who Anakin Skywalker is? Yeah. And remember, he is gone after the Clone Wars, effectively around the time of A New Hope, or before A New Hope. He's gone from the galaxy. He also knows who Darth Vader is. So he does know the connection between those two. Yeah. There you go. And so he was close to the Emperor, I'm assuming.
Yeah, he was. He was. But I think his absence, say, from the original 3, New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, it was always that he was kind of out somewhere. I mean, at least from, I think, Timothy Zahn's book, he was almost like doing secret missions and secret development of new military stuff. And you get that a bit in Rebels as well, where you have this TIE fighter, new TIE fighter, that he is sort of preparing. So, but I think in Timothy Zahn's, he was
the super
the outer rim. Kind of, his tactical genius was being used for the hardware almost, in a sense. And that's why he was kind of away from the action. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I remember there was something like, another super weapon. So part of me, when they were loading this stuff on, to the ship, I was like, they're not loading on another, super power source to build a weapon when he gets back, because they won't do that. You've done that 3 times now. Yeah. With the 2 OGs, Death Stars, and then the one in Force Awakens, the Death Star planet. Yeah. So it's kind of been done. I don't see them doing, it's a new energy source that can potentially power my super weapon. Yeah. Because there's no point. You don't need that level. He doesn't need that. You can see here, with his tactical elements, it's more the army and how he deploys them versus military might of a super weapon. Absolutely. But there is a possibility that he could be involved in the construction of the super planet weapon that was in Force Awakens. Yeah. That whatever he's bringing back here, or somebody else is bringing back, which we'll talk about at the next point.
what they're bringing back could have a knock-on effect into the sequel trilogy, right?
Yes.
That's where I would probably leave that bit.
Yeah.
But
maybe.
in contrast to the original Zan novels, John, of course, just to reiterate, the reason why Thrawn wasn't in the original trilogy was because he was taken out at the end of Rebels off to this other galaxy. So he wasn't even there for that trilogy.
Yeah,
so,
no, exactly.
So
exactly.
that's the big difference.
I always forget about that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so they have explained it in canon, I guess, as you call it, in Dave Filoni's canon.
Timelines, John. Timelines.
There you go.
Multiverse. It's all the multiverse.
No, it's just timelines. This is like, okay, where are these in the timeline?
Yeah, where are we right now today?
Wait till we get to Loki and have to talk about timelines instead of multiverses again, guys. Oh no, that's only 1 week away.
I know. Let's jump on to our final saber point for this episode. Well, you can't have a saber point without a lightsaber, and we get a good few of them in this episode. Mm-hmm. Yes, we do, because let's talk about the Ahsoka meeting Ezra and Sabine and Ezra having the face-off, and even Ahsoka having a face-off, another Jedi battle. It was battle-filled. Battlefield.
It really was. Can I just quickly skip to Balin and Ahsoka here?
Sure. Yes, please do.
Because I loved this battle so much. I was on tenterhooks because I was like, oh no, he's going to die. And this is going to be like, the revenge of the Ahsoka. And in the end, it did pan out like that. And I was like, oh, I'm so pleased because, it was just another great lightsaber battle between these two. And what I really stood out to me, at least, and I don't know whether it was intentional, but there is a pause in the dueling where, it's almost the reflection or the opposite of what happened in the other galaxy with the lightsaber duel on Cetos, where you got that classic still now of the photos with Ahsoka's face lit up with the clash of the lightsabers. And you get the opposite in this with Balin clashing and his face lighting up. And I just thought it was superb. Whether it was intentional, I don't know, thematic in terms of what Filoni was doing, but I just thought it was a really good sort of nod to what happened on Cetos in terms of that battle. And then ultimately, when he says, you can't defeat me, and she goes, perhaps, but maybe I don't have to. And, just because that's not her intention either, to actually kill him. And I thought it was nice of him that he says, she says, are you disappointed that I'm still alive? And he's like, no, not really. I didn't really want to kill you anyway.
Exactly.
So I just really love this character. And I think these two together as Jedis, that, having those classic lightsaber battles has just been really, really good in this series. And this was just another one for me. Yeah,
absolutely. I just love this character of Balin. There's really good moments that he has in the episode outside of that fight. But the fight is fantastic. Like, really, really good. Yeah. I love his final goodbye to his apprentice, where he tells her one last piece of advice: impatience for victory will guarantee defeat. Shin does seem pretty hurt to be kind of pushed out on her own, even though she has always felt quite confident. It's never felt like Balin's been the one ordering her to do something and being left alone. It's always felt like he's allowing her to go off on missions, whereas now it feels like he's kicking her out and going, right, off you go. You're out of the nest now. Off you go, fly, little bird,
Yeah.
And then we kind of have him going off on his own, to accomplish his own mission.
Yes.
This is the other person I was thinking of that could be bringing back some kind of power from this galaxy that will lead into the Emperor's plan that fulfills the sequel trilogy, let's say. We know they've been doing testing. We know they've been building up ways of trying to clone the Emperor throughout the Mandalorian series, but potentially it needs a little jumpstart from another galaxy. So I wonder if the power that Balin is looking for might be that jumpstart that allows them to create that whole army of warships that was on display in that final Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Oh my god, do you think they're actually going to do the clone of Luke?
I hope not.
In the Timothy Zahn ones, for our listeners, they did clone Luke, and they added a couple of extra U's and called it Luke. So it was Luke, our Luke, the standard Luke, and then Luke with a couple of extra U's too. So you understood which Luke was talking.
Yeah, on the page. They should have just called him Fred there, of
Yeah,
course.
exactly. It's so much easier.
Or equal.
But yeah, do you think the power is, like you said, that could be it, and that's how we get... They could do that. Maybe they don't do Luke. They do Ahsoka.
It is. Yeah, exactly. Well, it's interesting you say that, and this whole bit with Baylan, because when I first watched this episode, I actually just thought there was something missing a little bit. I not to say that I was disappointed, because I really enjoyed it, but I also thought it felt a little anticlimactic. So I don't know why. Maybe it's just because I was watching it early in the morning. I hadn't woken up properly. Whatever. I don't know. But the one thing I do think is it would have been really good to have seen Baylan approaching something at the end, like some kind of mystical door, kind of night witchy looking kind of doorway or something like that. I don't know. I just felt, I get he's going off alone, but again, like I say, there's still an awful lot here that's not clear. We know he's looking for this power. We've heard him say that's why he's come here. He can feel it. I guess it's the reason why he says, we're going in our separate directions. You go and join them in the new empire.
Yes.
I'm here, for this power that was written in the texts of the Jedi Temple. And I'm like going, just show something, at least, a bit like with the containers. Oh no, I know, but it's just, I'm guessing episode 8 will be longer, but it's just,
we hope.
Yeah.
That's my one concern. They do a 36-minute, and I'm like, because it's so, actually, you're like, oh, bash, wow, what a poof, dish. And because at a part, when we had essentially a load of good fights in this.
Yeah.
It really did.
Absolutely.
You had Ahsoka versus Baylan Skoll. You had Sabine versus Shin. You had Sabine and Ezra versus Shin. Then you had them, Sabine against the Stormtroopers. You had Ezra against the Stormtroopers. You had these great individuals, which by themselves would be cool. And they shoved it all in. I was like, because I'll say one really quick thing. They did exactly what I called with Sabine and the lightsaber. She did the lightsaber with blaster that we saw in the video game this year. Because it was so freaking cool.
Absolutely.
That was cool, actually. It
was. Because again, it happened so fast that there was just a lot in this. This was about a 46-minute kind of episode. A lot happened in it, so I was just like, oof. It was great, just give it more room to breathe. So I'm very hopeful that they give us a longer episode next week, which I think they might, based on the kind of other episodes so far.
Yeah, I'm kind of resigned to the fact that this is going to be the biggest cliffhanger that we've had since Mandalorian season 2, which was resolved in Book of Boba Fett, and then went on to Mandalorian season 3. I feel like they're setting that up now. The big reveal here is that Thrawn's on the other galaxy, has a way back, and he's about to arrive back in the other galaxy. That definitely isn't being resolved next week.
I agree.
Unless they take down the Chimera in this galaxy and find another way home in the Purrgils, and they just arrive back really happy with themselves on the other side of the galaxy. There's a way to do it in 45 minutes. Hey, that's half a movie, as we've said many times before. 45 minutes is half a movie. So whether it's going to be a 2-hour special next week or not, I don't think it is. Don't be getting your hopes up. There might be another couple of minutes on there, but I don't think everything we've seen here is going to be resolved. We will absolutely spend time with Baylan next week on his plan and whatever he's looking for. That has to be resolved because they're in a different galaxy, and there's no other way back other than right now the Chimera or the Purrgil. So
yeah, no, exactly. And I'm not looking for 2 hours. I'm more kind of like, the 56-minute mark or something like that. A bit like an episode of Wheel of Time. But that was again, it's just like a little nitpick. I was just like, in the end, some really cool stuff happening in this, and it is building, and it's probably like Grand Admiral Thrawn is playing the long game. Given what we know, there's going to be another season of The Mandalorian. Yeah. There's the movie. Who knows? We could even get a season 2 of Ahsoka, but there's also just that breadcrumb of seeing something that he's going towards, or even Thrawn inspecting one of the capsules that is being loaded onto the Chimera. Something like that. But I guess that does need to be a bit more of a secret. So that's all. But I love this stuff with Baylan. And like you said, Chris, the stuff around the Noti, circle the wagons, was really, really good.
This was that episode. Yeah, that was this episode where they also battled, Sabine and stuff battled the original mercenaries.
Yeah.
That the bounty hunters, with the other bounty hunters of Shin. I forgot that was there too.
A high-speed chase. It was awesome. Like, I know, Chris, you kind of ran through everything that happened in the rest of the episode, but there were so many great moments. The high-speed chase was awesome. I loved that idea. And I loved that Sabine's here on another planet with her 2 blasters, which we saw her loading earlier on this season. So we know they run out of power. The blasters do. So, she can't hold off all of them on her own. We have Ezra here who has no weapons. And he's saying that all of the people that are around it, all the Noti, are a peaceful people, so they can't battle. I do like that Ezra spends the whole time being like their father, going, "Stay indoors, I'll take care of this. Stay indoors, keep yourself under hiding." And I like that all their ships are armored as well. They have their little armored coverings so that nobody can get inside. That was cool.
Did you see the little dog rat wolf?
Yeah,
was indoors too.
The howler.
The howler was just like, Meh.
Yeah, and they were all riding howlers as well. So it turns out Sabine got a very nice one.
Yes,
because all the rest of their species doesn't seem to be as nice as he does.
I think it depends on the rider, I guess.
Maybe
something like that.
She bonded with it, just like on Pandora in Avatar.
Well, that's it. I mean, the other side of it is I did like, I like the banter between Ezra and Sabine where, she's realizing that the Noti really are not that great in a fight, compared to the Mandalorians and herself. But it's just where she goes, "You didn't tell me they were defenseless." Yes. I mean, just things like that. I liked Ezra's when they see, Baylan and Hattai in the distance, and he's like, "Are they your friends?" And she's like, "No." Because, she is still evading his questions around how did you get here, and even talking about Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Like, she's not telling him anything at all.
Yeah. But she did what every good nerd does when you have some time to talk with a friend you haven't spoke about in a while. She told them the entire story of the Star Wars trilogy.
Yeah.
As if you hadn't seen it before. What was it that happened again? Oh yeah, then you got to the Battle of Yavin, then you got to the Battle of Endor, and then Darth Vader fell, and the Emperor went. And then she says the weirdest "I'm in the writer's room" line, written here by Dave Filoni, where she goes, "Yes, people say the Emperor fell." Like, hang on a second. Yeah. You believe the Emperor died. Everybody does. That's why the Empire is gone.
Yeah, exactly. he literally fell into the reactor of his second Death Star, which then blew up.
Yes, but Sabine going, well, some people say he's dead, to try and pave the way for the trilogies of him coming back.
That was a little bit on the nose, to be honest. Yeah. And I mean, curse you, J.J. Abrams, for sort of those 3 movies that now have to be backfilled throughout the whole galaxy. I mean, as I've always said, everything connected is great until you have to connect utter twallop.
As he's always said.
Yes.
Well, I haven't used twallop, but
never. I get it.
In our Marvel podcast, it's like, I love everything's connected. It's great. But what if you get a dud?
Yeah.
And you've suddenly got to connect it. It's like, oh no, gotta revisit that. And that felt exactly like that.
Yeah, but they did that in Doctor Strange, where they blew up Black Bolt's head. So that's how you connect things that you don't like the Inhumans. But the other battle I really enjoyed, Sabine and Ezra versus the troopers and versus Shin Hati. We mentioned earlier on about him not taking the lightsaber, but I love his skill of using the Force against the attacking forces coming towards him. I thought it was really cool. We've kind of noticed throughout, particularly in Ahsoka, each person that is a Force user has a different style of attack and a different style of defense. Some is trained in certain ways. Other is just natural. You know, here we have Ezra using something that we haven't really seen before, him using the Force up against lightsabers. That's cool. It's awesome. You can see the lightsaber moving in the air as he's pushing it towards him. You know, he's pushing people away. He's pulling Sabine towards him so she doesn't get hit by a lightsaber. There's just some cool moments. He does lose focus for a second and then get knocked over by Shin Hati.
It was like that moment when Kylo Ren stopped the laser beam in Purrgil's JJ.
That was cool.
That was very, very cool. Yeah. And that character was very, very cool as well. But it was like when that happened and you're like, you can do that with the Force?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. You can fly in space without a spacesuit with the Force. This was cool. This was, for me, this was the monk. This is the weaponless monk kind of thing. So it's the Buddhist monk almost, where I am going to fight and take down an army and not have a weapon and use it. Because I thought, again, everyone was like, why wouldn't he just use the lightsaber? He's way better. And I was like, well, then this whole theory of he's actually secretly bad and the bad power is in him was in there.
It's also just Ezra. Like, I think that was a real Ezra moment. Well, I gave it to you as a present. Yeah. Like, I don't want it back, you know?
He's also Space Jesus now, when you have that beard.
Well,
it's the second coming.
Exactly.
Well, he did almost get a haircut from Shin Hati's first attack, which I thought was a little nod to the most famous thing that Ezra ever did in his earliest appearances, which was went from an annoying kid, gets a haircut, and now he's the most amazing character in the galaxy outside of Ahsoka. But there was a little nod when she aims towards him with a lightsaber and he ducks and gets a little bit of a haircut and he goes, ooh, close.
That was good. And I do like it when Ezra says, because Shin Hati is just stood there, you know, she's looking like a fish out of water a bit because she's just been dropped by a master. But it's like, Ezra's like, who's that? And Sabine goes, she's like you, but without the sense of humour. And I was just like, that's great. Yeah, really enjoyed that.
I really enjoyed how Filoni in this episode, and the director as well, have pulled in a load of, we've talked about like previous episodes of this where we had very much like Lone Wolf and Cub, old school Japanese kind of Ronin films. Here you had a full on cowboys and Indians scene where there was people being chased on wagons. We then had a Buddhist Chinese monk kind of fighting against multiple people. You had a Western shootout with pistols. Again, around these little hutches, their version of it. He's pulled in a load of different genres in this one episode, and it melds really well.
It does.
The way that they're building this kind of, I'm going to say the Filoni Mandalorian kind of Ahsoka universe part of this universe, right? Where this thematic universe, where it is very much a Japanese Western with martial arts almost. Where you do have these bounty hunters and these blasters, but then you're also now getting these martial arts monks who can use magic type of thing. Yeah. And it's just blended and stuff we've seen before. We've seen cowboy and Indian chases at high speed. And like here we have like people doing it just really well in this kind of sci-fi kind of genre. And it's just really working for me.
Yeah, it just seems like such a logical expansion of George Lucas's concepts because, you know, effectively all the characters from Star Wars were based on characters from Seven Samurai. So that's one of the inspirations for it. It wasn't just serials as everybody always thinks it is. It's based on the Flash Gordon serials. that's where the sci-fi element came from, but it's also the movie Seven Samurai, specific characters taken from that. So, of course, the person that he's most inspired, his Padawan learner, Dave Filoni, will take those concepts on board and put in a bit more of that mythology, history, and cinema stylings into his TV show. So he's done such a great job. Really, really good. One thing just before Ahsoka joins this fight as well, which I do think we need to talk about with Ezra.
Okay.
Ahsoka does an Ahsoka thing. She slides out of the ship, landing to the ground as Huyang flies away, going, "Oh, I can't believe I had to do that again." Great moment there. But just before she arrives, Ezra's about to surrender to the troops that are attacking him. Yeah. He's kind of going, "Do you not want to take us in and question us?" It seems like, again, a little old Ezra move, kind of
definitely
playing for time, trying to find a way to get himself in some kind of better position, but also a little bit of, please don't leave me in this galaxy anymore. Please. There's an opportunity here. If you take me on board as a prisoner, maybe you'll take me out of this galaxy.
Yeah, no,
I thought.
To me, that it felt really Ezra this. It was kind of stalling. It was trying to almost, in a sense, distract them by thinking that, they all think they're about to head into a fight. Mm-hmm. And the first thing he does is hold up his hands, you know? And I mean, I think you even see Sabine kind of looking at him,
absolutely,
going, what are you doing? But it felt really sort of Ezra to me, and I really enjoyed it. It's kind of what I was saying at the start. I really felt there were some great bits of continuity with this character and how Emin Esfandi is portraying him. It's just really kind of good, and I think that was another moment for me.
Yeah. I have limited touchstones with Ezra as the character, but this was a fun one. But you do start to see that everyone wants out. There is something here more than just the noti that is bad, or to make any
the weather, we said last week.
Yeah, it's Ireland. He's just just take me back to the sun, I just gotta get to Coruscant. Give me a bit of sun again. We've all been there. I enjoyed this part. I enjoyed more when Ahsoka arrives, because Ahsoka just kind of really then starts to decimate that, between 3 Jedi, or 2 Jedis and a Mando Jedi, Padawan, you really start to see them all lose, and that's when Thrawn pulls them. He's like, "No, look, it's done. Just get him out." And you see Shin, about to, that moment where she's about to kind of she's mulling in her head, do I fight? Do I stay?
Yeah.
And I'm gone.
Because
they're like, "Well, side with us. You can come with us. We're good."
Well, interestingly, in there, there's an offer from Ahsoka who says, "I can help you," as if she's reached out with the Force and seen that there is something about Shin that isn't necessarily a Sith, that isn't a bad guy. There's something about her that she could potentially help. I just thought that was interesting of Ahsoka there. Yeah.
It was really interesting, and I think it was, because she's just been kind of abandoned in a sense by Baylan. It was also, when she was there on her own, you felt like she was unsure, and maybe that was projecting through the Force.
Yeah.
But I thought that was really interesting that there was this offer made to Shin Hatai here, which ultimately she doesn't take. But that is potentially really interesting for what could happen in the future.
Absolutely.
And I thought that was a really intriguing little move here.
I do wonder if they'll pull that again, because I think they may.
I think they might. Yes.
Yeah.
They'll kind of bring her, and then she's another one for that puts Shin in potential for Luke's Jedi Academy in the future.
Maybe
his new academy. She goes there to train again. Because she may becomes Ezra Padawan.
Maybe. It's all really interesting, isn't it? Knowing that we've seen the sequel movies and how badly Luke's academy goes. I'm hoping that somebody else sets up an academy that we just haven't heard about. Like maybe Ahsoka sets up her own academy, completely independent of Luke's one that tragically leads to the death of some quite big characters. Good stuff. we do see the reunion, of course, of Ahsoka here and Ezra herself. So that was a nice moment to have it.
It was.
I really love Huyang's call out over after seeing them reunite, going, they're all back together. I hope I survive to see how this all works out. A great little David Tennant voiceover there. And yes, the episode ending with hopefully what isn't a threat of the future, with Ezra going, guys, I'm getting a feeling. I think I might be going home after all. I hope that's not a bad one, as we said at the beginning. Anything else? Any other notes? Any other points that we need to talk about from this episode?
Yes, I've got a few. I think we do hear when Sabine is sort of recounting what's happened whilst Ezra's been away. She says that Zeb is training recruits.
Yes, she does.
And obviously that Hera then is commanding the fleet. So I thought that was kind of quite good.
Yeah.
And, the other note I had is that, Sabine does pick up on the fact that Ahsoka is using the Force to find her.
Yes.
There's that great moment where she's kind of, Ezra's like, well, what's going on here? So while she's not able to move a milk jug, at least it could be a bit like, the sensation of, someone's walking over my grave.
A little bit,
I guess. But, is that where Sabine is actually picking up on it in a meaningful way,
Yeah,
it felt like it.
Yeah, because Huyang asks Ahsoka, do you think your bond is strong enough with Sabine that you're able to reach out and find her? It's not like you can reach out and find anybody, I guess. He's kind of saying that they have to have some kind of connection between the two of them, that they can find each other over that distance. So yeah, that was kind of cool that she was able to do that. Yeah. Felt really old school. I've just got one other note that we just need to call out, because I thought it was a really good scene, having Ahsoka kind of passing the time as they travel in the Purrgil, coming to the other galaxy. It's also kind of saying, Purrgil aren't as fast as the ship that Morgan and Elspeth has built, to travel across galaxies. Purrgil take a little bit longer. So, she has to occupy herself training, as her master taught her before. So we do get a little, moment here from Anakin, looking like he did back in the Clone Wars, on this training video. I think Ahsoka calls out that he made about 20 of these for her that she could tap into whenever she had time to do training and he wasn't around, because if you remember from the Clone Wars, very quickly she was kind of out in the field on her own. Yeah. So I like this kind of callback that she was able to continue her training without being side by side with her master, because he'd left these training modules, I suppose, for her to continue her practicing. But there's some interesting stuff that's kind of layered in there. Again, the timing is interesting. He's saying to her that don't be afraid if we ever get separated. If you ever get lost, don't be afraid. Trust your instincts. I know you can do it. And this was the final video that he left for her.
Yes.
Which would mean very close to his own betrayal, his own changing over to the dark side. He also calls out some awesome characters from the era of the Clone Wars. He calls out, you could face Count Dooku, you could face General Grievous, and you could face Asajj Ventress.
Yes.
The coolest of the Sith Ninth Sister, mixed characters. She was awesome, right back from the original Clone Wars, animated movie, much better in Clone Wars, and even better towards the end of her run. She's so cool.
Fantastic. Yeah. I have about a 45 centimeter statue of her. On a skull.
Cost a pretty penny.
One.
Yes.
The wonderful Asajj Ventress. So he calls them out. What I also like about it is all three of those characters are dead at this stage. So they were all still alive at the time that he was recording this holovid for Ahsoka, but all three of them are dead now.
Yes. I also liked Huyang's little sort of layering in here of, kind of just muses very thoughtful about Anakin and, he just reflects saying he was a good master.
Yeah, Ahsoka saying he was a good master, yeah. And he was. Until he turned to the dark side.
Well, exactly.
Aren't they all? One I'll just final note, I'll close on my points are, the elephant boneyard fly-through scene. So Thrawn using the Night Sisters to find Ahsoka in the bone field, and her using her piloting skills to escape, and that really reminds you that Jedi are connected and are these amazing pilots. Not all of them, but seemingly a majority of them, because they use the Force to just zip through these bone field, and it looked cool.
It did, didn't it? Maybe she also learned that from Anakin as well, since he was the greatest pilot in the galaxy, according to Obi-Wan.
Well, and also, it had the feel of, classic Star Wars hide in the debris field about it as well.
Absolutely. What was it? Millennium Falcon on the back of the Star Destroyer,
yes.
Until the garbage was released into space and they travelled out through all the rubbish in space. Yeah, that was a Han Solo move.
Yes. And led to the death of the captain of that Star Destroyer as well. Because he lost their quarry.
Very good. Good stuff. I think that's it for notes and points about this episode. One more episode of Ahsoka to go after this.
Yes, that is true. So, gentlemen, it is time for us to wrap up and give the audience our final thoughts for this episode. Derek, what are your final thoughts of Ahsoka Episode 7, Dreams of Madness?
Love this one. We went into lots of detail here, so I'm not going to add anything more to it. Can't wait for next week. It's been a really good series, and I think it's been building every week. And yeah, hello C-3PO. Welcome back, old friend. Nice to see you setting up the episode and sticking it to that evil senator. So that's my final word on it. How about yourself, Chris? What do you think?
Yes, much like you, we've discussed this in depth and in great detail, and I don't want to kind of rehash a lot of it, but for me, I really enjoyed this. I'm very cautiously optimistic that they will stick the landing in the next episode, and I think that does then set us up with at least some form of kind of the Empire Strikes Back style ending where things are not going to look great. Like, they're going to put it up with some form of, like, Thrawn's back. Uh-oh. And I think that's where we're going to finish. And I'm interested to see where they leave these characters. Will Ezra and Ahsoka be stranded in a galaxy far, far away from the galaxy far, far away? So look forward to seeing it, but really cool to see the lightsaber fights, the blaster fights, and everything in between for this. So yeah, really enjoyed it. Johners, what were your final thoughts for this episode?
I really, really enjoyed this. I'd give this 4 whoopers out of 5, which I believe is circle in Noti.
Oh, very good.
Yes.
Whooper.
And, actually, weirdly, it's gone up. So I really did like this episode, but as I say, there was just something in my gut that felt whether there just needed to be something else, and I don't know what it was, because
episode 8.
Well, episode 8 directly after it, I guess, yeah, and that's probably it as much as anything. Again, I'm glad we were back in Coruscant. I think that's important, seemingly, I would say, for the last episode as well. But again, if it's not, and it is to be seen, I just feel, maybe it should have been indulged that over sort of a few episodes and so on. But I think it was just, I wanted something that I could hitch to around, say, like Baylan. And maybe even a bit more around whatever those containers are holding. But that was my only little gripe, and it was more just a gut feeling about it. I just wanted to have more. So, but otherwise, again, great continuation of Grand Admiral Thrawn here. I thought there were some really interesting moments here, such as with Ahsoka and Shin Hatai and that offer, as well as with Baylan and him effectively saying, we're diverging here. We're going on our different paths. Absolutely love Baylan's skull, as always. It's actually, it's even more sad now that Ray Stevenson has passed away, because I just wish he was there to carry this character on, assuming the character survives episode 8, but or isn't stranded in this galaxy as the action heads off back to the original, in quotes, galaxy. So I just really enjoyed all of this. I loved the Ezra-isms happening here. So, 4 whoopers out of 5 for me.
Fantastic.
Whoopa, I mean. Gentlemen, it is time for us to whoop into a tavern or a cantina far, far away. Let's head on to our cantina quiz. Yes. John, do you want to give our fellow rebels the question for this episode?
Yes, fellow quizzers, fellow rebels. Yes, it's question 7. What class of shuttle is Ahsoka's ship, as called out by Captain Enoch?
Very
Excellent.
good. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not named anything cool like the Millennium Falcon, but there is now a class for it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Good stuff. Do you want to get the question one more time, John?
Absolutely. What class of shuttle is Ahsoka's ship, as called out by Captain Enoch?
Excellent. That's it. That's the 7th question of 8. Get your answers into all 8 questions at the end of the season 2. Feedback at tvpodcastindustries.com, and you could be in with a chance to get your hands on some Star Wars Ahsoka goodies. Also, if you want to share your feedback to us, you can also email us there as well. First up, we do have an email that I missed a couple of weeks ago. I'm really sorry, Suzanne. This came in when I was getting loads of emails in for one of our last pub quizzes, and it came in right in the middle of all of them, so I missed it out. So really sorry. I hope you don't mind us reading this on the penultimate episode of the podcast. But Suzanne back then said, "Hello, gentlemen. I'm loving the Star Wars show. I thought I'd write to you concerning an idea I had about Sabine and her powers with the Force. They keep mentioning her lack of talent. Unlike most others trained in the way of the Force we've seen in the past, she is a Mandalorian. Perhaps the way she will tap into the Force powers will be through using the dark side of the Force, but not for evil like we've seen before. Mandalorians are physical, emotional fighters, exactly what classically trained Jedi are trained not to be. But is this the only way to use the Force for her? Perhaps not. Can Sabine harness the dark side for good, maybe? Will this show totally change our idea about the Force? I hope we get something that world-changing in this show, along with the awesome fight sequences, acting, etc. I'm really enjoying watching along with the 3 of you guys. Thanks, Suzanne."
Fantastic stuff, Suzanne. I really like that theory. I am going to cross literally every appendage that I have and hope that happens.
It's very cool.
Yeah, because I think that's a really cool idea, to be honest.
Yeah, great stuff. I really like that idea. I think personally they're probably what I hope more for this world-changing, lore-changing kind of piece coming out is this great power on Peridea that Bale Skull is looking for. Like, whatever that is going to be hopefully the universe-changing, galaxy-changing power. And even if it is just the return of the Night Sisters, or like they've been weakened.
Yeah.
Because there's only very few of them scattered around the universe, and now this army of them is being brought back by Thrawn. That's pretty cool, because again, these all other non-Jedi, Force-sensitive, or magic-sensitive users. It's going to be definitely cool.
Excellent stuff. Thanks, Suzanne. And again, really sorry we didn't put in the feedback a couple of weeks ago when it came in. We also got an email in from this episode from Coffee and Vodka, who says, "Greetings, fellow reunited defenders. No Purrgil were harmed, or at least killed, in the filming of this production. Noti either, it seems. Nice icing on a Star Wars cake with so much more spirit of the original trilogy than any live action for decades. Between this, Mando, Andor, the purported ending of the writer's strike, and the planned Filoni theatrical projects, things are really looking up. Everything in this episode, from the hiding in the debris field to the battles to the animated band getting back together again to the surprise classic cameos, was perfect. Do have to say, however, the most unbelievable aspect of this show isn't spaceships, brilliant blue admirals, or sabers made of light. It's how easily Sabine has, so far, been let off the hook. 5 Purrgil bugouts, on the take millennial senators, and golden oldies out of 5. Peace and take care. Coffee and Vodka."
Thanks, Coffee and Vodka.
Fantastic.
Yeah, they're gonna have to address that in the next episode at some point. You're alive. Oh, and you're here. Anyway, kind of, it's just like we're just gonna smooth one over on that one.
As I said, like any good Star Wars fan, she had time to talk to her best friend, so she told him about the trilogy rather than all the problems that she has in her life right now.
Well, that's true.
How did you get here again? Ahsoka was dead? Who are those 2 Jedi-looking people that are after you over there? It's complicated. Sorry.
That's true.
It's but also, let me tell you about the Ewoks.
And as well, the battles were great. I forgot to mention we had the the really weak sounding lasers coming from those ships again.
Yeah.
And they just really feel like they would never be able to play. Yeah, exactly. It's like
they're old ships. Maybe they've just gone past the point of their prime.
I don't know whether they're old ships or not. She owns shipyards on Corellia.
Yes. Sorry. Yes, they're just really badly made ships.
Yeah.
Pew, pew.
They put the pew in pewter.
Oh dear.
Thanks, Coffee and Vodka.
Yeah, great stuff. Thanks, Coffee and Vodka.
Thanks, Coffee and Vodka. We also got an email in from Darth Von Doom, who had this to say. Greetings, New Republicans. Sad to see so many Purrgil in peril. Were they killed or just jumped back to hyperspace? Is Mothma that weak a chancellor to let one senator disrupt the council? She was a powerful leader of the rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
Can she not have this dude investigated and exposed? Cassian Andor could get the job done. Hell, Chopper could do the deed.
Mm-hmm.
He is already pissed at that guy. It would seem C-3PO's appearance saved some CGI fake magic to refute Xiono's grandstanding.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like Thrawn will win the race home. As powerful as it is, he could still use a lightsaber or some form of a weapon. I'm eager to see what power Balon finds. He left Shin to certain defeat.
Mm-hmm.
The Ahsoka Balon standoff is a bit disappointing, but necessary to reveal his objective. Will Ezra reconnect with the Purrgil to get home, or might they piggyback on Thrawn's ship? Looking forward to the feedback on this episode. The Force is strong in you. Darth Von Doom. Thanks, Darth. No Purrgils were harmed. They all jumped into hyperspace by the looks of things.
Yeah.
And yes, Chopper could do this deed.
I'm
pretty sure they're going to, at some point, just make Chopper to be this, turns out to be an assassin droid in disguise.
Well, not an assassin droid. He does definitely hold a grudge and will make plans. Like, I wouldn't walk past any open holes or along the side of any buildings if Chopper's around. If you're this senator, like, I'm just expecting him to just push him off a ledge and just kind of laugh heartily away to himself.
But it's even more than that. It's like when the senator goes back to his home planet, Chopper would blow the planet up.
That's probably true,
killing
yes.
all the whole of the senator's race.
Casualties of war.
It's like, I'm sorry, he really, really annoyed me. So,
did you hear what he said about droids?
Exactly. He's just going.
Ah, perfectly timed.
Good stuff. Thanks, Darth Von Doom, for your thoughts on the episode. Great to hear from you.
Yeah, good stuff. Thanks, Darth Von Doom.
Over on Facebook, Joe Herbert says, for a penultimate episode, the courtroom stuff seemed like a not very interesting distraction. Ahsoka training alone seems like something from an earlier episode. Last episode, Sabine not telling Ezra what's going on seemed weak. It was even worse this episode when the stakes were so high. What does she think is going to happen next? How are they going to get home? If she's young, maybe she hums and haws, but she's a grown woman and this is serious, so it seems dumb. Still waiting to find out what Bela wants, etc. There's only one episode left, which doesn't seem enough to be satisfying. Thanks, Joe. I'm going to have to leave it to next week to say whether I'm satisfied with the wrap up for the season. But yeah, I will say that Sabine not actually mentioning any of the bad things in all this episode seemed like, hang on a second. You spent time with him. You've had a chance to talk to him about it. You probably should be telling him some of the dangers that are coming. Like, Grand Admiral Thrawn is just over that hill over there, your biggest and greatest enemy, and he's now got some backup. You might have been able to avoid him for 10 years, but it's going to get bad for a couple of days.
Yeah, exactly.
Might have been a nice thing to tell him.
And it's kind of a bit like with the sex education thing. It's like, the longer you leave it, the worse it will become.
The worse the secret becomes, yes.
I actually really enjoyed the training. We didn't talk about it much in our very much discussion, but I thought it was fun. We talked about how kind of seeing Hayden Christensen as Anakin there, but actually it did actually serve a purpose here in that it kind of reminded her to do these trainings. She says explicitly she hasn't done these trainings for years. She hasn't practiced them because of the guilt she felt around Anakin and stuff. So her taking these back were some of the moves that she used when she was fighting Balon. So it does kind of tie directly back in, so I understand why they placed it here.
Yeah.
It was a good one.
In fact, if anything, I think the courtroom scene could have been in any episode since Hera left. That could have been put into last week's episode
absolutely.
or the week before. There's nothing specifically to tie it to the other story, whereas I think we even mentioned earlier on in the series this idea of traveling through hyperspace. When you used to see that in the Star Wars movies, they always kind of hung out playing chess and doing things during the hyperspace jump, and then it suddenly became like warp speed in Star Trek. You know, it's like, and we're there. So it kind of had that element of, well, actually, Purrgil are even slower than you're used to with hyperspace. They kind of occupy themselves while they're inside the mouth of a whale, wondering where they're going.
Yeah, definitely. Good stuff. Thanks, Joe. Richard Blaze says, decent enough, but suffered from the usual of a penultimate episode just setting up the finale. Nice to see 3PO back. Bit of a surprise to see him arrive in the multicoloured court. With all the mention of Leia, I did half expect her to turn up. Really liking Ezra, his playful chat with Sabrine and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was great to see. His confidence and use of the Force was unique to see for a Jedi. Mm-hmm. The battle with Ahsoka and Baylan was good, but not as good as their first meeting for me. Thrawn is really showing his true colours now, true blue, and his military know-how is quite scary. So it's a long wait now to go before we see how this ends or sets up season 2. Mm-hmm. Richard also mentioned to us about some of the actors on the show we didn't call out. Enoch, Thrawn's right-hand trooper, is played by Wes Chatham, who played the excellent Amos in The Expanse. And one of the great mothers, Clathow, is played by Claudia Black, most well known for playing Erin's son in Farscape. Excellent stuff, Richard. I am so glad you pointed those out. Loved The Expanse. And so, yes, Wes Chatham, the big thug, from The Expanse.
Lovable thug, though.
Well, he started off as the big thug, but ultimately became the lovable thug. And of course, Farscape as well, was fantastic. So, great.
And Claudia Black was also in Stargate.
Yeah.
That's how I remember her. But I know she was in Stargate, in Farscape. And, like, a lot of people loved her, but she was in the later series of Stargate.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I loved Farscape with the Jim Henson puppets.
Excellent.
They really were.
They really were. But they were just so good. It's a real shame that people aren't liking the Ahsoka and Baylan battle Mark 2, because I really did enjoy it. But
I think we'd all kind of built it up after the last battle going, the next time they meet, it'll be the battle to the death, because they had a purpose the first time, which was getting the map, or at least stopping Baylan from using the map. This time it felt like, oh, they're here. And as you said, they walked into the fight and you're going, uh-oh, this is the end of Baylan. They're not going to kill off Ahsoka. I'm sorry. The show, that's her show. Like,
no, exactly.
But you're expecting this is the death of Baylan. So it's going to be this massive battle. And then it ends off, actually, she's able to distract him and get away and move on with her real objective. So, So maybe they'll face off one last time.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
It was fun to see to look over there.
Exactly.
It's like smoke bomb.
It was kind of, it was the magician's sleight, I guess. The smoke and mirrors. Excellent stuff. Thanks so much, Richard.
Absolutely. Dr. Bob Phillips says, my grandma would have been proud. Life-threatening situation, but Ahsoka didn't forget her cardigan. Loving the multi-purpose mystic haggy sacks of the Great Mothers, and just for Chris, the turtle power of the Noti. Still not sure what's the real deal with Baylan's skull, and want the finale to include the redemption of Shin. Have we seen Black Hawk style TIE fighters before? And the light khaki colonialist vibe of the Blue Death guy is very nicely done. I would think they probably took a little bit of inspiration for Grand Admiral Thrawn from colonials and their preference for wearing khaki.
Yeah, and probably also just Nazis.
Well, that too, yes, absolutely.
No, I guess we're also colonials as well. They did kind of
colonized a lot of places.
Quite a lot of Europe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and yes, turtle power all the way. Heroes in a half shell, Noti power.
And the haggy sacks is excellent. Yes, they're kind of mid-90s secondary school trying to learn some juggling skills with the old haggy sacks.
Absolutely.
And also, Dr. Bob, just to your question, have we seen the Black Hawk down, I guess, style TIE fighters before. Yep, they're certainly in Rebels. I'm not entirely sure whether we've seen them in live action before.
Don't think so.
But they are in, they're in Rebels for sure. And also in the latest version of the Cal Kestis video games, Jedi Survivor, he is brought into Coruscant, on one of these TIE fighters as well. They're kind of more, I think, terrestrial bound, gunships, as you say, Black Hawk. Down style.
Yeah. Black Hawk style. Yes. Yes. Not every Black Hawk goes down just because of the movie. That was one Black Hawk that went down.
They're Imperial ships, so
they probably will get it.
They will fall out of the sky if they're not shot out of the sky.
Exactly. Good stuff. Thanks so much, Dr. Bob.
Thanks so much, Dr. Bob.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Bob.
Our next and final piece of feedback comes from Mindy Megan, who had this to say. I don't think the inner child in me will ever not get excited when I hear or see C-3PO popping up in new places we haven't seen him before. And hearing him talk about Leia, such a treat. I love that we got some bonus Hera Chopper and Carson Teva time when we had good reason to think we've seen the last of them for now. Overall, I really enjoyed this episode. We got to see a lot of big things and pleasant surprises. I love not knowing which way Shin Hati is going to go, but I really wish I knew more about which way Baylan Skoll was going to go, since we're unfortunately getting such a finite amount of this character in this way. Again, not having much background on Ezra, I do wish we got to see Sabine telling him all the complicated details of what brought her there. Or at least a cut to as she told him. I also found myself really wanting to see him pick up his lightsaber and use it in a fight, rather than just force hands. Hashtag save the space whales. P.S. Sorry, Derek, I know your annoyance for the term, but everyone keeps saying whales. I'm with you, Mindy. Save the space whales.
Don't worry, Mindy. I began to question myself this week because someone else on Twitter was telling me that it's okay to call them space whales. It's like us having different names for creatures on our planet. I'm still kind of going, but there's no whales in the galaxy far, far away. They've never had whales, so why would they call them space whales? And then this whole episode, everybody kept calling them space whales throughout the episode. And again, I was going, why are they doing that? And then thought, hang on a second. Did they ever actually say Purrgil in the show? And started to question myself. Had to go back and watch. And Huyang definitely calls them Purrgil out loud. And in the subtitles, they're called Purrgil as well. So,
because it's too long, space whales.
Yeah. But I did question myself, thinking, had I actually heard it, or did I just know it from Rebels?
It is weird, isn't it? Because as I say, it's like, Chewbacca, always known as a Wookiee. Whereas Ewoks were always like cute teddies, teddy bears. So I guess it depends.
But like Han and Luke didn't turn around and go, "Oh, look at the teddy bears over there."
Well, no, exactly. That is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
That's all I mean.
I think personally it's going to be like the genus is they are space whales, but their actual name for the species is Purrgil. It's kind of like there's loads of sharks. But there's actually great white sharks and hammerhead sharks. So there's loads of space whales. But this particular type of space whale is a Purrgil. I'm trying here, dude. I'm trying.
You call giraffes and lions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And these
but then
Purrgils.
There's subspecies of giraffes called like short-necked giraffes.
Yeah, no, exactly. But then it'd be short
space whale Purrgils or non-space whale Purrgils.
Short-necked giraffe. Hang on a second.
I'm pretty
Is that just
sure
a young giraffe?
It's a baby giraffe. Okay, I'm trying here. I'm trying to make the sense for you.
It's just young. I don't think you need to do it, Chris. You don't have to defend it, and nobody else has to defend it anymore. It was a very small nitpick, but I did start to question myself after after the messages during the week this week. Great stuff. But thanks so much, Mindy, for your email. I totally agree with you. It's so nice to seeing C-3PO back in any show. I'll always jump up and down for that. That was very cool. And just seeing him interact with Chopper as well well. For a quick second, I know Chopper was actually reacting to the Senator, but just having the two of them on screen in live action is cool.
Absolutely. Really, really good. And I'm totally with you. I love the Shin Hatai, not knowing which way she's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm with you around Baylan Skoll because I just really enjoy this character. And there's only one episode left with Ray Stevenson actually doing this character. And I really enjoyed what he's brought, just that kind of majesty I mean, you even hear it with Thrawn saying, General Baylan Skoll, like that kind of dignity of him. And, which way is he going to go? I hope there is some resolution. I think that's what that was my nitpick in this as well. Just from the gut, really. Mm-hmm. But thanks, Mindy.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mindy.
Great stuff. Thanks, Mindy. And that's the end of our feedback for this episode. So that means we're at the end of this episode. Yes, we will be back next week for the finale of Star Wars Ahsoka Season 1, hopefully. But we'll also be back for the finale of The Wheel of Time Season 2, ahead of its Season 3. Yes, that is a definite Season 3 coming on that one. So, it is going to be a busy couple of days because we also have Gen V launching this week over on Prime Video. And next week, you have Loki Season 2 kicking off on Disney+. Yes, it is going to be a busy time for us TV podcast industry hosts, but it's going to be a good one.
Absolutely, yes. The first 3 episodes of Gen V should be in your feed if you're subscribed on TV Podcast Industries or on the Boys Podcast. They should be in your feed right now. Myself and John got to record that last week. Unfortunately, Chris can't join us for the Gen V at the moment. There are 4 different shows going on at the moment, but he will be back with us for one of those shows, at least later on, once we finish up our coverage of The Wheel of Time and Ahsoka as well. One quick note on the pub quiz, cantina quizzes, tavern quizzes that are going on. We've got loads of them that are going on at the moment. We're not going to be able to do wrap-ups for every single one of our shows. So we are going to wrap up all of our pub quizzes together sometime later in October when things calm down a bit. So it'll be a big old podcast special of giving stuff away. We might coincide it with our 800 episode, which is only about 6 episodes away. So that should happen in October. Really? So yeah.
We podcast too much, people.
I know.
Oh my god!
But we'll have a big shindig. We'll make sure we've got a bottle of writer's tears or something.
There you go. There you go. Giving away goodies works for a big celebration episode like the 800th. Brilliant stuff. Thanks so much for joining us. Talk to you again next time.
Yes, thank you so much, and we will speak to you again next week. Bye-bye.
Yes, good stuff, fellow rebels. Thank you for joining us as always. Great chatting with you. Until next time, though, keep watching, keep listening, and keep rebelling. R.I.P. Captain Needa. Bye.